What's going on, guys, and welcome back for another video. Today we have the top 32 from DLC Melbourne, and we're going to go over 4 of the deck lists. All the deck lists are not made available just yet, but we have the top 32, at least color breakdown. Most of them will be straightforward. Amber Steel, though, however, there's some discrepancy on which was Steel Song and which was the aggressive version of the deck with or without the Dwarven Mine. Until we get more information, we don't know that entire breakdown yet, but there was 9 Amber Steel decks, 10 Popsicle decks, and then we also had 4 Amethyst Emerald and 4 Amethyst Steel decks, 3 Emerald Steel discard, 1 Ruby Amethyst, and 1 Blue Steel. But it was actually a very spicy list, which we do have for you guys, and not the aggressive version that we've been seeing. So what kind of stands out, jumps out here? Popsicle, we already knew was the best deck coming into the format, so that's really no surprise to see its overall dominance in this event. It also had the majority of top 8 as well. We know 6 of the deck lists for top 8. 4 of them revealed are Popsicle, so we kind of know how that all played out. As far as Amber Steel goes, it doesn't surprise me that much that the aggressive version did well, with Popsicle being such a dominant force in the meta because it's a faster deck that can kind of go under it. Same as Amethyst Steel and Amethyst Emerald. They're just quicker calls and have decent matchups into Popsicle, but at the end of the day, Popsicle proved to just be too strong overall. Discard, when they hit their hand, they're the best deck in the game. When they don't hit their hand, though, it takes a good pilot to really navigate the deck. We did see a few of them squeaking on in there, including into top 8. Ruby Amethyst kind of surprised me how poor it did, again, at a big event. We saw it do rather badly at the North American Continentals as well, and it's kind of interesting to me. I think the deck is still incredibly strong. I don't know. It's overall kind of surprising as to how weak the deck turned out to be in the grand scheme of the event. Maybe it's because it's figured out. Maybe it's because the elite level players know how to beat it. Maybe it's because a lot of them just choose not to play it because, again, it's just kind of figured out, and it doesn't necessarily have the highest ceiling. It's got one of the highest floors, and it's very consistent, but top end wise, it's not one of the highest ceiling decks, and maybe that's why people just gravitated away from it. Blue Steel, that list was really neat to see. I still think it's a deck that can absolutely do really well, and, well, we saw that. So let's go ahead and cover some of these deck lists, right? First one we're going to go over was Jian Chao's top 16 Diggy hole list. Pretty straightforward. We're not going to just talk about everything that's insane here. We'll just kind of look at the deck, see if there's anything that jumps out. This is a list that, once again, playing the Rapunzel's Tower and the Dwarven Mine. Just talked about that yesterday in our video, breaking down 10 recent tops of this deck, how Rapunzel's Tower was starting to see some play in here. Outside of that, there's really nothing too crazy. Sven definitely still keeping his appearance up. He's becoming more and more popular as we go on. The Kita also just still in there, but kind of phasing her way out. I've seen people point out it's just really bad when you're in a Sisu format, and to a degree, but at the same time, I just want to note a couple things on the whole Sisu argument about it. Cinderella, Daisy, Happy, Lilo, Piglet, Doc, John Silver, if he's damaged, Lawrence, Rapunzel, all die to Sisu regardless of the -3. So at the end of the day, Sisu's just very good against this deck. But yes, if you're in Sisu territory, be very weary on it. Don't drop a Kita, give all your characters -3, because then they just slap a Sisu down and you lose your Pete, your Smeeze, everything. You lose it all for no reason. So do be very mindful of that with your Kita if you're into like big Sisu territory. I mean, I guess you still play into Brawl and things like that too. So I get it, but at the same time, she can be very impactful. Outside of that, there's really nothing too crazy here with the list. Pretty straightforward, and like I said, if you're playing the Dwarven Mine, you see the Happy in there. If you're not playing Dwarven Mine, I'd probably take the Happy out and put in like Simba to pair up with your Lilo. But if you're playing the Mine, absolutely playing the Happy. Moving on forward, we have Green Steel discard, the deck everybody absolutely loves to hate. I know players who just play the deck and they don't like playing the deck, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. He was top 8 with the deck. when it was all said and done, this is the ink decks, or whatever tag name he gets. I know it doesn't always use their real names, obviously, or not obviously, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's pretty similar to the list that we saw Zan Saeed play. Without pulling his up, I very well could be almost card for card. I don't know that he played the Heffalumps and Woozles, but overall very similar list. And hey, we saw it last format too. Green Steel, once it's figured it out, there was very little tech spots. The deck was just streamlined. It was very consistent. It was very strong, and it was just overall really, really powerful, and there's no reason to change it. Don't fix it if it's not broke is really the moral of the story here. So in your 1-drop spots, you obviously have your 2 Hidden Coves and your 4 Diablos, but we've been seeing the 3 Cursed Merfolks just to speed the deck up a little bit and be able to compete in the faster format. In 2, lots of utility now in the 2-drop spot. So we see Smee getting cut back to 3, as well as Ursula, because you have to make room for the Calhouns. She's too strong not to play. Doc offers some late game draw power, and your Go-Go Tamago gets to close out games for you. If you can put some damage on a character, slap them down, pay the 2 ink, and then get the lore for their damage. 3-drop spots and even into your muses, really this hasn't changed, probably won't change. It's streamlined, just 4s in all the 3-drops, and then your 3 muses. This is really where the deck just gets insanely strong. Like, every one of these cards is so good. 4 Hypnotize still, like I said, the 1 Heffalumps and Woozles just pairs up with your muses pretty nicely, and it also slows your opponent down if they're trying to win the game, because it stops one of their characters from being able to challenge, while also gets you to draw a card. So you can potentially stop 2 characters, not from challenge questing, stop 2 characters from questing and draw 2 cards. Then we also have the sudden chills, the damage songs like usual, and then I'm Still Here finding its way in again. The resist 2 and drawing a card, again, giving multiple characters resist 2 and drawing 2 cards with your Ursula can open up a lot of pathways to either challenge into your opponent's boards or to be able to quest freely knowing that your character is not going to be destroyed. Overall, like I said, pretty straightforward. I don't think moving forward that most of the Green Steel discard lists are going to be too far off of this. I think that they'll all be pretty similar, but we got another Steel deck to talk about, and this one is spicy. Jonathan Lamb, we all saw it and we're like, wait, he just played Pleakley? Did he really play Pleakley? And then we're like, wait a second, Pyros too? Argus? I mean, Argus has seen some play in the game prior format, so that's not too surprising. In the 1-drop spot, though, we do have a character, and it's Simba, which is just nice to help fix your hand, dig a little deeper, and get the things rolling. Also, your 4 Popsicle, 3 Fortispheres, kind of the standard there. Usually it's 4/4, but we don't usually play the 1-drop character, so cutting the 1 Fortisphere to make room for some of those Simbas. In the 2-drop spot, this is where it started to get a little interesting, and I'm okay with it, though. Just the 1 Tipo and no Sail the Azurite Sea. This deck is piggybacked more off the premise of using your Fishbone Quill to ink and Whole New World to refill your hand afterwards. So having to dump earlier in that 2-drop spot isn't quite as important. Instead, you get the board presence down and can stabilize and control where things are going. Or in the event against Popsicle, you could try to go a little bit quicker and speed things up. So it gets you a little bit earlier board presence and then ramps hard and fast after into turn 3 and onward. 2 Argus, because he's just a big-bodied 4-strength character to deal with your opponent. Take out like their daisies in 1 swing. Smee, obviously, going to be really quick there. There's no reason not to play it. He's going to be standard across the board once again. 2 Visions, just consistency. That's all it's there for. And then we got 3 Twin Fire. So essentially you can do 2 damage to a character, discard a card, do 2 damage to another chosen character. When you're playing the Whole New World and ramping and dumping your hand and refilling your hand, discarding an extra card is not that bad. So you can potentially deal 2 damage to multiple characters, which can be very powerful. In our 3-drops, the 4 Peats, again, pretty standard. Your Fishbone Quills, again, that's pretty straightforward. But then 3 Pleakleys we saw get played. And he's got a nice little stat line with the 4 Willpower there, too. And when you play it, you get to put a character of yours into your Inkwell. So being able to essentially use up something like Tipo, that you played your Tipo, you ink a card, next turn you quest your Tipo, then you play Pleekly, put Tipo into your inkwell because your opponent's just going to take it out anyway. You just kind of get the free advantage that way. So using the Pleekly and Fishbone Quill as your ramping engine was kind of neat to see, and I'm curious to see how many people moving forward will stick with the Pleekly in that. I'm not sure if it sticks, but overall it worked for him very well, and it was a lot of fun to watch him on stream. In the 4-drop spot, we got Hiram. That's it. Just the lonely Hiram. 5s, we got 3 Cogsworth, 2 Pyros. So Pyros can ready himself when he challenges a character and banishes it. So he's a 5/4 body that can take out multiple threats, and he's inkable. There's nothing wrong with that. You obviously then have the 4 Whole New Worlds, 2 Grab Your Swords, just for dealing with your opponent's board states and clearing it out, allowing you to also just be very aggressive, dumping your hand with your Fishbone Quill, and then being able to refill it with your Whole New World. 1 Let It Go as another form of removal. Into our bigger characters then, if you have more items than your opponent, your Ariel gets to quest for 5. She's a 3/4 with Ward. That's pretty strong. You also have your 4 Tinkerbells, pretty standard there. Then into 7s, 2 Lucky Dimes still, and 1 Arthur. So essentially Arthur comes down, he gets Challenger +2 and Resist 2 to another character, aside from being a 3/6 body that quests for 3, just allowing you once again to deal with your opponent's board and threats. That's what we kind of see the common theme with this deck. It's less just long-term control, and it has a lot more board state control with cards like Argus, Pyros, Arthur, seeing things like that in here, Twin Fire. Like, it's much more board control focused, and it really worked well for him all the way into the top 4, was it, I believe? Don't quote me on that now. I'm 99% sure it was top 4. I had it in my head. I knew I should have wrote some of this stuff down. Anyway, congratulations to all 3 of these guys, but we do have one more list to talk about, and obviously it has to be the winning list. Ding, came, saw, conquered, fam. Beating everyone at Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not enough. He had to come on over here and do it as well. He finally got there too in a DLC. He's been performing really well and topping them, but he finally got the win. He's actually sponsored by one of my local shops, even out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, World Class Cards, so that's kind of neat. But anyway, his list was, well, kind of like Lamb's, off the normal, but it worked really well. And is that because of the pilot, or is it because the deck is actually that good? I think that it's both. In both cases, I think that the pilot had a lot to do with it, but I think that the deck choice and build from that same pilot also played a role. Sometimes when you see a list like this, you might look at it and wonder, how does it work? And you'll go and play it and be like, yeah, I'm not doing very good with it. I don't think the deck's that good. I think he got lucky. I think he's a good player. And sometimes it's being able to connect dots that others might not see, because if you built the deck, you know the intricacies of it, and you can play it out a little bit thoroughly. So I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm an expert here, but we're going to go over the list and talk about it nonetheless. In the 1-drop spot, just some consistency. You got your 4 Popsicle and your 4 Develop Your Brains. Being able to go for consistency with the Develop Your Brain slot. Obviously, Popsicle's just a draw card. In 2, you got your 4 Tipo, 4 Vision, more consistency there, 4 Azurite Sea. So essentially turn 1, you just want to either get another card, put your Popsicle down, or dig with your Develop Your Brain. That's easy. Turn 2, you want to ramp. And if you can't ramp and you don't have it, you go use your Vision and dig for cards that you're going to be very helpful moving the game state forward. As early as turn 3, then, you get into your 4-drop cards, which means slamming a McDuck Manor down in the mirror match. It means getting Hiram down to pop your Popsicle if you need the extra draws. It means getting a Super Goof down if you're versus an aggressive style deck. You also have Grammatala there as a potential for consistency. And if all else fails, you have How Far I'll Go to ramp and get a card into your hand. Ideally, you'll come back and use, like, if you go Grammatala or Hiram, potentially then you sing the How Far I'll Go instead of just hard casting it. But like I said, if all else fails and you don't have one of your 14 4-drops or a better 3 or 2 or anything like that, How Far I'll Go works on 3. 4 brawl as well for dealing with those early aggressive threat decks. So you got your goof, you got your brawls, and then while you're ramping up into things like your Maui on 5, which means Maui on 4 because of the ramp, and also your half shark. Half Shark is just crazy with the actions, getting the lore, taking out characters, getting your actions back, and trying to finish out the game. So you have Let It Go as well, just to deal with your opponent. 4 Pirate's Life. Not only does that mean if you see these cards, that's 8 lore in your favor, that's minus 8 lore from your opponent. And of course the 4 Be Prepareds. So essentially, if I were to look at the deck, how would I try to play it? I think, again, you're going consistency in turn 1. I know he's actually popped up in a few of my video comment sections, so maybe he will once again and can explain this if I'm wrong, or if anyone else has better idea on it. Turn 2, you're definitely trying to ramp, just like turn 1 consistency, turn 2 ramp, turn 3 is very dependent on the matchup that you're into, whether you go for like the consistency, the anti-aggro, or your own aggressive push with like a manner. And then obviously afterwards you have just your whole toolbox opening up with your Pirate's Life, your Maui's, Let It Go's, everything like that. So if you can get manner down and control the board state, but it doesn't just mean slam manner down on turn 3 either. It means getting manner down when the board state allows you to, whether that's 3, 4, 5 at some point, right? So like if you can get it down and using things like Brawl, Goof, your Maui's, Let It Go's, Be Prepared, using these type of cards to keep it alive, because 9 willpower is a lot to begin with, especially if you get out multiple. You use all these powerful cards to keep your mana alive once you get to a safe place of playing it. And in addition to that, if your opponent's getting too close to closing it out, or you're trying to close it out, you have all those Pirate's Lives, your Maui Half Shark, again, also pegging you that extra lore and getting it for you, also getting your cards back. But overall, it's pretty clear-cut, concise, I think. Like I said, turn 3 is really that pivotal play line of the deck where it's completely matchup dependent. Are you on the play? Are you on the draw? Are you against a fast deck? Are you against a slow deck? What's the rest of your hand? I think that turn 3 is the huge turn for this deck for what card you go through and play with. But afterwards, like turn 4, 5, 6, it's establish that board dominance, get your manners down, and then just control the board state and win via that. But overall, I'm pretty excited to see a couple like off the norm lists. It's nice and refreshing to see that people are still innovating and trying out new things. And you know, when it's the sprite god himself, there is no doubt that he puts in the time and likes to mess around with things. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget our 5,500 subscriber giveaway is still live for a case of set 7. We're about 250 subscribers away. We're getting very close. And as always, guys, until next time, like, share, subscribe.